Hi there. I'm not really that good of let's say, a loud announcer, but really there's this epic battle going on at the moment. It is the battle of our time. It touches the whole globe. It's not between Christianity and Muslim religion, or Republicans and democracy and Democrats, all that stuff. It's not even about democracy at all. It's about the banker cartel, the Keynesian myth, versus the people that want to survive, that want to find a solution. And today was a special day because in the media you had the two sides clearly outlining their position. The banker cartel, the Keynesian fiat petro system, that's basically the oil distribution system based on fiat currencies, wants to protect their own franchise, wants to keep going, no matter what. Even, let's say, Dominic Strauss-Kahn, the leader of the IMF, he will go on advocating his myth for as long as he can. If his building is burning, his chair is burning, his limo is disappearing, he will still be advocating for that system. That's the system we need. And he's not really advocating it because he's, of course, a cartel driver. He's driving a monopoly, and that's always done by dominant criminal people. Criminal in the sense that they force people, that they create situations of despair, that they create situations of need in order to get that system and to keep it going. Well, it worked for a while, and it created two huge problems. First of all, it created the climate problem. Second of all, it created the dependency problem, because it's not a sustainable cartel. But the owners of the cartel will never care for that. They will simply go on until everything, the whole world, is one big problem. And he has actually a strategy to keep going longer. His strategy is abandon the youth. So the youth, the younger generation today, will have a very hard time. Second of all is commit genocide on the poor nations of the world. The poorer nations, he says, will experience supply shock due to currency volatility and hyperinflation. He's in charge of that. He is basically driving that. So he's not analyzing it, he's not predicting it, he's announcing it. And then, of course, we have 100 trillion euros or dollars more of credit, and everything has to be credit-based, and we'll have currency volatility. It doesn't really matter, because the longer you allow this guy, this philosophy, to rule, the easier it becomes for them, because they are consolidating themselves in every different situation. See, it only takes a month to kill an oil-dependent country entirely. I mean, oil and coal, if it runs out, you don't have water pumping around in your city. You don't have food. You don't have it distributed. You don't have medical care. You don't have nothing. And if you don't have that for a month, there's nobody there anymore. Everybody's dead. See, the Tunisians might be rioting because they cannot afford their food anymore, but they don't have food. And the Egyptians the same thing. They might be rioting, now, but in a week they'll be too tired to riot, and then in a month they will be all dead. In the worst case scenario. In the scenario that they, of course, they have their own land that they work on and stuff like that. They produce some food. But in the extreme case of a country that's completely dependent on the supply, external supply of food, it's quickly over. If you depend on petrol and oil to get out and into places, then it's a prison camp by itself. It doesn't need barbed wire. Whole continents can be like that, and especially that's what I've been talking about before, is the petro-fertilizer dependent countries like Kenya, Malawi, and a lot of African countries like that, where that basically Trojan horse of Monsanto, which is an oil-dependent food supply, has been introduced and adopted. The people are desperate immediately if they run out of money to buy the petro-fertilizer. And the price of that is now rising, and of course it's a highly energy-intensive way to make fertilizer, but that was another cartel. Maybe that will suffer a defeat, but the banking cartel won't, and Dominic Strauss-Kahn is ahead of it. And he's just announcing, how are they going to do it? Well, they're going to commit genocide on a massive scale. And the US is on board at the moment, because they have the big weapons that can supply the oil. That's one side of the epic battle that we're in today. That is the thing that you have to start understanding, that it is the problem. And it's so funny, because I might sound like a conspiracy theorist. You really don't understand economics. And other people, I don't even have to refer to Marx Kaiser, but he has been saying, of course, the savers against the speculators. The point, what I don't like about that is that it is not a battle. It has to be won. It has to be a change. But the one that's now on my side, and clearly so, is Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations. And I guess all the people that are around the United Nations and are part of it. And he says the world is in a suicide pact. And we need to find an economic model for survival. It couldn't be said more clearly. It's amazing how clear this is. The world is in a suicide pact. It needs an economic model for survival. That means the current economic system, cartel, will not allow people to survive. And if we allow it to continue to rule and dominate, we will be committing suicide. So my solution that I've been proposing, and I always try to find solutions for problems, and I guess I have too much time for that, but I think it becomes very important to really start focusing on that, and that is the agoracentrism philosophy, which is just a name for doing things with local autonomy. And it's funny, because I've been buying this stuff a few years ago. It's a big, it's a lot of rice. And funnily enough, and it's a little bit, let's say, morbid to talk about it like that. But it becomes more and more real every day. You can see it on television. He said, if I had that thing in a secluded area in the middle of Egypt, the whole country would starve and I would survive. And I've been thinking about that, in terms of the food supply, that it doesn't really work to, let's say, get all kinds of cans of food and stuff like that. You also need to have a way to grow it. But the way things are now driven by this genocidal cabal of people that are hyper-Keynesians and believe that you have to kind of run until you hit the wall, and let's say you don't slow down and walk around the wall, but you just go straight on into it, and then you have fun until, as long as it lasts. The way they're driving it now, you might see, let's say, real hunger, real emergency hunger in lots of areas. And and then if that will affect the US as well, then it might be wise to buy like a little big bag of this rice. It stays stays edible for years, apparently. So this is already 2 years old or something like that. And buy more of that stuff, and buy things you can plant. Because you might find that the way, if there's no way to dismantle the system by becoming locally autonomous, it's not allowed, or it's objected to, or you basically don't have the power yet, because that's also a real danger. If you allow yourself to be starved, you become weak and you won't be able to protest anymore, and then you're simply gone. So you have to react quickly and react decisively instead of wait and see what happens, because the other side doesn't wait. It's quite a serious subject, but now we have, there's now somebody you can clearly refer to. It's Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations. We're on a suicidal road. It's very nice if people that are clearly beyond any doubt of their intellectual clarity and are functioning properly and are at the head of everything, they're starting to make sense. it's a pity that it's such a horrible, say, vision. But it does give you the 100% certainty that if you act against the Keynesian myth, the fiat currency myth, that you will certainly not be alone, and that you will be doing the right thing. I think that's. I had a discussion with somebody a few days ago, and it was the same story. Like, we're gonna go to hell, and it's. And my question was, yes, you talk about that as if that's the way it's going to be, but is it good? Are you going to be morally anywhere, as a human being, if you allow things to happen that way? I think that's quite a significant aspect of being alive, is that you know that you're not evil.